Welcome back to The Double Take. I'm Ethan Mitchell.
And I'm Josiah Mitchell.
And today, like we promised, this is part 2 of breakups. And it's obviously a sensitive subject, but we're excited to talk about it and hopefully give some insights. We've definitely made some mistakes in the past. And we're friends with people that have made mistakes, right? Everybody does. But we just want to give a little bit of some advice on what we wish we knew beforehand. Obviously, our parents were so good at giving us advice. But obviously, hindsight is a little 20/20. So anyway,
so based on the mistakes we've made, the advice we've received, here's a video, kind of a compilation of those tidbits of wisdom.
Absolutely. So let's dive right in. Now, before we get started, we do want to say that breakups are very, very painful. And we never want to come across as guys who are like, oh, hey, just suck it up. Like, it's fine.
Yeah. Like, I think our culture, I hate to interrupt.
No, go right,
that was
right ahead.
Good train of thought. But our culture, it puts too little emphasis on stoicism, saying men should be emotional. They should wear their heart on their sleeves and things like that. And while there may be some merit to that, usually men are and should be the more stoic, the more strong.
Not necessarily ruled by their emotions.
Yeah, not ruled by their emotions, a little bit more dictated by logic and facts. But it is okay to hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. It's okay to acknowledge that hurt too. There's so many different things. And this happened with the millennial generation a lot, is that they bottled up their hurt and their pain. And then when they're 40, 45, they have to go to therapy because they're falling apart on the inside and they don't know why. And so one of the things to do is to realize that you have been wronged and to process through that. And that is one thing that we want to help y'all with specifically in the ways that we've been helped, right?
Yeah.
But we don't want to come across like, hey, just get over it, all right?
Yeah,
sometimes
just suck it up, keep going.
Right. Sometimes that is what you have to do. You genuinely, there comes a point where you do have to move on, and that's really hard, all right?
Yeah.
But we want to acknowledge that breakups are super painful.
They are painful, and I mean that's coming from a couple of guys that we've had a couple breakups in between the two of us, and it has been difficult. I mean, there's been times where neither of us are really given to tears, but there's been times where it was hard to find a dry eye.
Yeah,
it was hard to go throughout a day without breaking down at some point just because of the pain. It really hurts your heart genuinely when there's like a stab of pain in your chest. I think we all kind of empathize with that and know what that's like.
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking to a few buddies the other day, and we were talking about how the fact is that guys could break a leg and totally just like go about their day normally and just be like, oh man, it's terrible.
Yeah,
right?
It's in a cast, but not a big deal.
Yeah, but then like their heart is broken and it's just debilitating. It's like the light is gone. All right, and that's definitely how it feels post breakup. So anyway, now that we talked about how to break up in generalities, now we're going to give kind of a 30,000-foot overview of what to do after a breakup. And there's definitely a lot of mistakes that you can make. Number one, slandering.
Yeah,
right?
and fellas, we're definitely talking more to you. Like these same rules should apply to guys and girls usually, but fellas, just for your own sake, we're talking to you because we are a couple of guys.
Absolutely. So number one, slandering. That is a huge thing. It's a huge temptation to want to drag somebody's name through the mud. Absolutely.
Yeah, especially when they break up with you.
Right.
You want to get that last punch. You want to twist the knife.
Right, absolutely, because you want to make them hurt like you are hurting. And that is, it's number one, like that is a huge temptation, but that is very un-Christ-like, right? Because everybody's sinners, everybody's broken, right? That's why we need Christ.
Yeah.
But to purposely go out of your way to twist the knife, like Josiah said, and to make sure that everybody knows that it's not my fault. Like they're the ones who were messed up.
They broke up with me, but it was actually a good thing because they were so bad.
Yeah, I was Mr. Perfect. They were the ones who were toxic. Like you should have seen some of the things. Yeah. Like that is not good. All right. Not that you have to go around singing their praises, but one of the things that you do need to do is kind of go ghost mode. Is not to communicate, because breakups get really, really messy when lots of people are involved, right? If you're talking to her and all of her friends, and her friends are talking to you and your friends about this breakup, everybody gets involved, feelings get hurt, and friend groups
it can tear apart. Friend groups,
apart.
We've known it to tear apart youth groups,
which is really like church youth groups, which is really, really hard. It's super discouraging for the youth pastor, because he's looking at he's trying to just preach the gospel, right? He's trying to love on these youth, but they're sitting there in a turf war because two two people were in a relationship, and now everybody's like splitting,
taking sides,
like Moses.
And
it's been rough. We've experienced that. That's not something that we want, right? So number one, do not slander. It's a huge temptation, like I said, but you cannot do that.
It's so destructive, and it's not only destructive to that person, but it's also destructive to you. You slandering others really does tarnish your own reputation.
Absolutely.
Not that it should be self-serving, but it really does hurt you, and a lot of people don't know that.
Right.
And that brings us to number 2, which after you've been broken up with, fellas, it is okay to ask for clarity. That's totally fine.
If the breakup was kind of vague and you're like, what was going on?
Yeah, if it was vague, but you got to remember that person, they don't necessarily owe you an explanation, because dating relationships are, hey, you seem like a cool person. I really like you. I would love to go out with you. But it's not a, hey, I want to marry you. Here is a ring to signify my love and my commitment to you.
Right.
So because there wasn't that level of commitment, there doesn't necessarily need to be that level, a high level of explanation as to why it didn't work out.
Right.
They could just say, hey, I simply realized you were not going to be my husband. We've heard that recently.
Yeah, it's a heartbreaking reality.
It's very poignant,
right?
And that hurts. That really hurts to hear.
Absolutely. And one thing that comes with clarity is you can go overboard and like want multiple conversations and let's keep meeting. And the thing is, that's not healthy, because you're trying to hold on. You're hoping that there's more there. You're hoping you can convince them otherwise. That's not a good thing. At the end of the day, if you're broken up and this person is not interested in you like Claire, it's there. It's clear that she does not want to be with you, so you need to move on.
By her not wanting to give you clarity, you should take that as a clear sign that things are just done.
Absolutely.
And so that brings us to
number 3, which is do not let your emotions control your actions.
Now, this is huge. This is so big. I mean, I'm sure you or people have, out of that emotion, have made some sort of decision, or like sent that text, made that phone call, took that picture or whatever, and it dogs them now.
Absolutely.
They have so much regret.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I have regret from things in relationships decisions I made out of emotion, but if you make a decision out of emotion, generally it's going to be too fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why you need to process through, and you need to give it time, and you need to back up. All right. One thing that is very essential for Christians is to pray, is to bring these things before the Lord. What Hezekiah did in the Old Testament, whenever Sennacherib, I think, was knocking on his door saying, hey, I'm about to just absolutely wipe you out. What do you think these other gods of these other nations, they couldn't stand up to us? Why do you think you can? What did he do when he got the letter saying we're going to attack you? He laid it out before the Lord. He said, Lord, I can't do this. This is yours. Right.
He said, Lord, they're not attacking me. They're blaspheming you. They're attacking you.
He laid it out before the Lord. He gave it to the Lord. That's one thing that we have to do as Christians, to say, Lord, I am hurting. I'm broken. I don't know how to do this. Lord, this is for you to deal with. And the Lord does that. He provides peace and clarity. He's near to the brokenhearted, right? He saves those crushed in spirit. Yeah. All right. That's what we talked about last time, that verse from Psalm 34.
Yeah.
So one thing, you cannot let your emotions rule, because like our dad says, regret makes a very hard pillow. It does. Absolutely.
It really does.
Because when you're ruled by emotion, you act out, right? I mean, one thing you want to do as a guy is just punch through a brick wall.
Yeah,
because you're so frustrated. Angry.
You just want somebody to say that one word that like sends you over the edge, so you can just send a haymaker flying.
Absolutely. You want somebody to jump you when you're walking down the street, just so you can beat somebody.
You got your hat down low, it's raining, you've got the rap music playing,
you got the hoodie over, and you're just like, come on, somebody look at me funny. I just need some blood, right?
Yeah.
But you cannot act on that emotion, because it really does just add regret, and it just makes the situation worse. Trust us. It really does.
It can add insult to injury. I mean, to you. It'll tear you down even more, making just rash emotional decisions. And so that brings us to number 4, which is, after a breakup, you're going to want to minimize what you did wrong or any mistakes that you made, and you're going to want to maximize the mistake that they made.
As in, that's what you want to do, but that's not what you should do. You want to speak. You should, number 4, speak in generalities, right? It's really easy to be like, when somebody comes up and said, hey, bro, what happened? Why are you broken up? It's really easy to be like, oh, she was just like, she was super toxic, and like she said these things, and like she was still talking to her ex and things like that. And that's just like number 1, slander, dragging her name through the mud. When you speak in generalities, one thing my dad told me after my first breakup, I said, Dad, what do I do? Like, I feel so wronged. How do I talk to people about this? He said, son, you say, our lives were going in 2 different ways. All right. We just realized we didn't think the same way on a couple couple subjects and decided it would be best to go our separate ways. That is loving, all right? Even if she's the one, Mitchell Tenpenny has a song where he talks about that there's two sides to every story. One's the lie, one's the truth. And in the chorus, he says, you stop telling lies about me, and I won't tell the truth about you.
And there's two more songs that actually brings to mind. One is by 24K Golden, and he says, there's three sides to the story. Yours and mine, and then the truth, girl. Yeah. So he's saying, we're both lying, and then there's the truth. So there's three sides to this story. And so that's an interesting song. And then there's another one by a fella named Logan Mize, and the chorus says, I don't essentially when people ask him, he says, it's for the best. It's over now. Wasn't anybody's fault. It didn't work out. She's a good girl. She just wasn't the one. We wanted different things. We had a good run. Then what is it?
I'm better off.
And she's better off, and so am I.
It is what it is.
That's all right. I don't tell him that you broke my heart. I just tell him that we grew apart.
Yeah, we grew apart. Yeah. Right, and that's one thing that's a very good principle to have, is not to say she's the one, blah, blah. It's just say we both had some issues, and we're better off not together.
Or
right?
even, you don't even have to necessarily say that, although that's a pretty good mild thing to say. It's just, it didn't work out.
Yeah. And that is totally fine. Nobody needs the gory details, right? Because that's just going to further hurt you. Like, if you have a wound, why would you pick the scab, right? Telling all the details. Look, you let it heal, right? So you move on, which brings us to number 5, move on.
Which is move on.
And that is so hard. After all these things, after all these emotions, at the end of the day, you do need to move on if this person is broken up. And obviously, we're speaking from a 30,000-foot view, right? There's always those situations where we broke up and then we got back together. Now we're married with 6 kids.
Hey,
awesome.
Yeah.
But a lot of times that doesn't necessarily work, right? And so if it's very clear on one side that it's not going to work out, you have to accept that and move on. And though it is hard.
It's so hard.
And especially as a man, right? Because you want to fix things. We're natural fixers, right? We want to get in, and she's got a problem. I'm going to take care of it, right? And so we want to fix relationships. We want to not be shunned, right? Because we feel shame sometimes when we let something fall apart, or whenever a girl doesn't think I'm good enough. I have to get in there and convince her that I am. And that's not good. That's not healthy. Sometimes you do just have to move on, even though it is so hard.
It's so hard, and it takes a lot of time.
Absolutely.
And that's why it's so important to have friends around you who love you. Not guys who are yes men. And there are guys who are going to tell you, no, dude, don't make that phone call. Don't shoot that text. They're not going to say, whatever you want, man. Stuff like that. It's important to really confide in older people who love you and are invested in you, such as your parents. For us, it was pastors or mentors and things like that. Our grandparents, even aunts and uncles who have been through things like that. These people that love you, they'll help you as you verbally process and you're able to move on.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is one thing. That's a very good statement. You want to verbally process. That's the thing. Some people just can't talk about it, right? But it's so much better when you just lay it on the table, like as a guy, and say, "This is what happened. I need some help," right? Yeah. Which brings us to number 6.
Yeah, which is keep going and be consistent.
Absolutely.
And this is really hard, because I know for me personally, I have a tendency like, man, I'm being so consistent. Like I'm working hard. I'm working these long hours. I would love for there to be a woman in my life who sees that and appreciates that. But if you can be consistent while you don't have that, young men, how much more consistent and honorable will you be when you do have that young woman to impress?
And she will be impressed. Trust me, the right woman will be impressed when you are being consistent, when you are working hard, being diligent, and just doing life faithfully, right? Because we want to honor the Lord in all that we do. And so when we say keep going, like, get in the gym sometimes. That's a big way that guys can overcome a breakup, is they get in the gym to grind out some of that anger, which is really good, right?
Yeah, that is.
It's a really good thing because we're doing something. We're breaking down our bodies in order to make them better, right? And it's a good way to release some energy. Guys get really angry. Sometimes they go to the punching bag. That's a good thing, right?
Yeah, go for a run.
Absolutely.
A tough run. There's been many a night where I've had to go for a really tough, really fast run.
Absolutely.
Just because I was so emotionally just in pain.
Right. And here's the thing, though. This is what you're going to be tempted to do, is to picture her watching you while you're doing these things. And then in the back of your mind, you're performing for her, for the vision of her, right?
Yeah, I've been there.
There's this thing called like a revenge body, right? I'm going to go and get a revenge lift and just get all ripped, and she's going to miss me.
You sure you didn't want any of this?
Let me tell you, that's bondage. Yeah. All right? It absolutely is binding, right? It's chains whenever you cannot get over a breakup. Some people's lives revolve around a breakup they had 10 years ago, right? And they're just trying to be worthy of this person who they doubted me. They didn't think, but let it go.
Yeah.
I promise you there's freedom. There's freedom in Christ, all right? Let it go. Forgive, all right? That's a huge thing. You have to forgive sometimes. You know, you're going to break up every once in a while, and you're just going to have horrible thoughts and feelings for this person who broke your heart, who shattered your life. You do need to forgive. But you cannot do that unless you are moving on, right? And so those are our 6 principles, really, of what it means to be broken up with and how to react and respond to that tragedy, because it is hard.
So just remember, don't slander. It is okay to ask for details if the breakup was vague, you know, but don't, like, that person doesn't necessarily have to give you details. Number 3, don't let your emotions dictate your actions. That's a big one.
Yeah. Number 4, speak in generalities. Like, you don't need to get into specifics of why. Yeah. I mean, obviously with your trusted friends, but you don't need to air out your dirty laundry in front of everybody. Yeah. Right. Number 5, you need to move on.
And this is potentially one of the most important steps. I mean,
absolutely.
I think it's the most important step for getting over a breakup is to move on, obviously.
Absolutely.
You know, it falls in a good spot because, you don't want to slander, you don't want to make emotional decisions, but then at the end of the day, you're going to have to move on.
Absolutely. And then number 6 is keep going and be consistent, right? And one of the only reasons we can do that is we can take heart because the Lord has overcome the world, right? The Lord has conquered death. He's risen from the grave, and he gives us hope, right? And our hope is not in this relationship that I really want. Our hope is in Christ, right? It was a relationship with Jesus, and that is how we can move on, and that is how we can continue to smile, right? Whenever our heart is broken, is the fact that we know Jesus, and he has completely changed us and saved our lives.
Yeah.
So anyway, hopefully you've gleaned a little bit from this. Well, I know we have throughout our many years and a few breakups. The Lord has been kind to us by giving us great counselors and our parents and our mentors and our friends. And so we hope that you've gained something from this.
Yeah, and if you have. And if you haven't, feel free to let us know in the comments. We'd love to see maybe some more questions that we could flesh out.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe some scenarios too, if you want to do that.
Maybe some personal stories even, because that stuff's really interesting, and it's good for us to think about and talk about, because we have had a couple of experiences.
Absolutely.
But anyways, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hopefully this is helpful. Remember, it's a heavy topic, but you guys, if you've been recently broken up with, or you're thinking about doing a breakup, like, that's okay. You've got this. It's going to be all right.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's going to be okay.
It's going to be all right. So anyway, thanks for watching and listening. Hope you have a great day, great week, great life. And as always,
be good.